Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another exciting Minecraft episode today. I'm just so into this frame thing right now. So, my name is Kimberly Quinn, and it is my pleasure to continue our chat on frame awareness. So today, the thing is, we talk about being in the frame, and this one is about the frame and residing in your frame, and then the zone of proximal development. So first, just a little recap for those of you maybe didn't see the first one on the frame. Is anybody who has experienced mistreatment in childhood, any of it, right up through abuse and everything. And you know my backstory. I had all three of them: physical, sexual, and emotional. With the emotional, I would say, being the worst of it. But anyway, we often are yanked out of our frames. And so how I described that earlier in the other episode, quickly, because I don't want to bore people who already saw that, is that, when we're little itty-bitty, beautiful, little cheeky cherubs brought into this world, we have this natural force field that's there that kind of, even though we're all connected in a divine sense, of course, it kind of, it kind of has like where we end and somebody else begins. And so it's kind of like when somebody gets in your bubble, like they just get too close to you, not even aggressively or even intentionally, at least not consciously intentionally, and you kind of back up. It's that kind of thing. So when we are ripped, we can often, when we have bad things happen to us as children, we can often be yanked out of our own frame, and then we kind of gravitate towards the frames of other people. We like all these little frames. If I had more frames and more people, I would use them to show you, because we kind of get pulled into because we are drawn to external approval of other people, because when we're ripped out of our frame like that, we're in emotional pain from shame, right? From shame, which is, is comprised of all those feelings of feeling defective and flawed and not enough, and all the ways we don't measure up and all of that. So we're kind of coerced or seduced out of our frames into the frames of other people, where we try to reside. And so that's just sort of a visual for what would be considered codependent behavior. And we're looking for and craving external approval from people, because we are on the inside, within our own frame, which we're no longer residing in, we are not feeling whole and complete and enough. And so that is what it's about. So that's being aware of our frame and sort of how we get back there. So there's so many advantages to residing and getting back into our frame. Oh, here, I have it right here. Okay? Back in our frame. We can occasionally do like that when we're getting used to being back in our frame. Looking for that external approval, being a rescuer, people pleasing. And obviously it's good to be a good person and do things for people. But if you're getting your self-esteem that way, that's unhealthy and codependent. I'm just telling you the truth. Okay, so frame awareness is huge. So with the proximal development thing, as related to the frame awareness, it actually came from Vygotsky, and it's used in the context of child development, which actually I'm just kind of borrowing the phrase to make it for spiritual development. But basically, Vygotsky came up with this brilliant plan about how children can really learn so much better, faster, easier, and have a better time when they're grouped with kids who are just a little bit farther along than they are. So that was sort of like the basis for the open classroom, is what we called it back, when dinosaurs shifted and glaciers, sorry, dinosaurs didn't shift, they flew and walked and ran. I meant glaciers were shifting and raptors were flying around and circling the earth or whatever. They don't fly either. Okay, I gotta just fix my example here. When glaciers were shifting and dinosaurs roamed the earth, let's say that. When I was in like first grade, and I remember the open classroom was grades 1 through 3, if I remember correctly. I remember the reading group, and we had, around the table, we had like 10 kids around the table. So you had first, second, and third graders. And of course, what first grader doesn't want to be around second and third graders, because they're like the coolest, And we would learn more by not only, like whatever's being said to us by the teacher, but by listening to the kids who are just a little ahead of you. So that's called the zone of proximal development, which was a really great idea. I also think of the Fabulous Five, our 5 young adults, when they went to school in town, they had another variation of that, which was paired reading. And they also did the Pledge of Allegiance, like a kindergartner would be with an 8th grader or whatever like that. and the paired reading with a sixth grader and a first grader or whatever. It's just such a good idea. So when we have frame awareness, we're going to use that metaphor now, of the proximal development. When we're in our own frame, we are in a much better place, more solid, confident place, even if it's not comfortable yet or not familiar totally yet. So you'll start to attract people into your life who are just a little farther down the road spiritually and or self-awareness wise, or however you want to define it, along the authentic path. They're not going to be like an enlightened monk in Tibet probably, okay? But just like the example with the open classroom, the universe will just sort of kind of send you people that are just a little farther along because they have the wisdom that you are now not just seeking. I think it's like a craving. At least for me, it is. I know, when I'm watching a YouTube or reading, or I meet somebody new, or it's people I already know who are a little bit farther down the path than me, or they're right with me. Like my rooftop friend and I are pretty much walking side by side, and we kind of illuminate each other with wisdom, and it becomes a craving. Like it's almost like when you're hungry and you just want something really good, you just gotta have it. So when you're residing in your frame, the universe will start to send people like this to you, and it'll be like words are dripping off their lips or something. All these aha moments will just start to happen for you, and that's like the zone of proximal spiritual development because they're just this much farther, or maybe sort of close to you. It's so much easier and faster and more enjoyable to learn that way. So that is one advantage, one of many advantages of really becoming aware of your frame. Become aware of your frame and residing back in your frame. That's like a force field, a very natural force field that lets you know where you end and somebody else begins. And for those of us who are yanked out of there early on, it can be weird at first. I wouldn't say it's uncomfortable. It's just kind of unfamiliar. It's kind of like if you go visit a foreign country and you're at some beautiful site. You're excited to be there. The view is great, or whatever it is great. Eiffel Tower, whatever. But you may not know how to navigate. It's like, wow, this is great. I just have to be paying attention because I don't know. It's different for me, and I don't know how to navigate this spot. So that's kind of like how it felt for me, because it feels just unfamiliar, yeah. And then it gets more familiar, more familiar, and more familiar as you start to get in your own frame. And of course, the word no will be much easier to say once you're in your own frame, because you just start to build this confidence. It's a lovely, natural boundary that you're getting back that may have disappeared when whatever happened to you. So frame awareness is essential for healing, and it's essential as you move along the authentic path. And you will find, and I'm going to do more episodes, it's too much for one, but the non-judgment of self gets easier, the non-judgment of other people gets easier. Definitely the boundary setting becomes easier, because boundary setting is all about your self-value. So you can't really set boundaries until you value yourself. That's just how it works. So frame awareness is key to sort of recovering your authentic power and strengthening that. Okay? And then the proximal development thing is that the universe is going to start dropping people all along your path to kind of pull you along, and then eventually you'll be doing that for other people. You may not even know that the universe is using you to do that right away. And if you're super aware and enlightened, then you will, and you'll just enjoy the whole thing. Okay, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.